Hey guys, this is Rebel, and I'm recording something on my own. I have been going to therapy since last fall, and I'm feeling pretty good about the progress that I've made. It turns out some experiences in my life have changed the trajectory of my growth and how I interact with people. Apparently, PTSD can cause a lot of issues, particular issues that I've been dealing with. I never find true happiness. I have happy moments. I have weeks where I'm happy, but it's not truly happy. It's sort of happy, and sort of happy isn't where I want to be. For example, I get a new dress and I pull it out once it arrives, and I'm very excited about the dress, whatever the dress may be. Right now, it's dresses by Hell Bunny out of the UK and Naked City Clothing out of Portland. Those are my favorite dressmakers, but I'm very excited when I order the items, and the anticipation is exciting about when will they be here, when will they arrive. But then I open it and I try it on, and while I still like the dresses, I'm not truly happy and I'm not elated to have received the dresses. It makes me sad. This is probably how I wound up with so much stuff. And I've talked about that before on the podcast with Sage. The amount of stuff that I have is overwhelming. Maybe knowing that some of this is PTSD related, it will slow my roll on other things, on purchases and how I spend money, hopefully how I save money and sort through all of the purchases I've already made. Another thing with PTSD is numbness, and that kind of goes hand in hand with not being able to feel true happiness. Numbness is not getting close to people. It's not showing excitement. It's keeping to yourself because you don't know what the outcome will be. You don't know if you're going to snap and freak out on somebody, which I have done multiple times. And it's usually not physical. It's usually verbal warfare. And I'm really good at it. I can cut somebody down to size like a samurai with a sword. It's a little bit terrifying for me, and it's got to be terrifying for the person or people on the receiving end of those freakouts. Trust is probably my most enormous hindrance right now due to PTSD. I don't trust anyone, sometimes even my family. And that isn't because people are liars or cheaters. It's because I trusted the person who was involved in assaulting me. I don't know if he felt like he needed to knock me off some proverbial pedestal, but he did. He invited me over to a party, which ended up not being a party. It ended up being game night with my friend and some of his friends, and it ended in multiple assaults in the same night. And please keep in mind, this happened over 2 decades ago, almost 3 decades ago. But I've recently had it pop back up in my mind, I guess because it's past time to deal with the things that happened to me. And for me, it's time to honestly reflect on how this major event changed so many aspects of my life. Like I said, I don't trust anyone, which means I also did not ever trust my husband. And he did give me some reasons to not trust him that I felt were very valid. But now that I know some of the side effects of PTSD, I can't help but question if my thought processes were skewed because of the event that occurred and the thing that happened to me. I don't want to dwell on what happened to me, but it was major, and I've decided that I am going to force myself to get past it, and I am going to become the master of my PTSD. It isn't going to get to me, and it isn't going to ruin anything else in my life. I plan to basically make it my bitch. So I'm not sure how much work that is going to take. I'm not sure if it's even a possibility, but thinking positively, that's my plan. That's what I want to do. I don't want to be held down and held back by some stupid event that happened on one day or one night so many years ago. That's not fair to me, and that's not fair to my loved ones and my family and anyone who I might date in the future. I deserve to be happy, truly, deeply happy, and move forward with my life. I also feel like it is each person's responsibility to come to a new relationship whole. I do realize that is asking a hell of a lot because most people don't think they have a problem that needs to be dealt with, and they carry that baggage on into the next day and the next year and the next relationship and the next cycle of their lives. And that is going to mess up things for a lot of people when you don't deal with your own mess. I'm going to continue to do some short podcasting mixed in with the podcasting that I do with Rebel Sage Perspectives, because I think word needs to get out and people need to know that they are not alone in their struggle to find a healthy, happy life. I know many, many people struggle with PTSD, and this disease comes at you from varying places and varying events. Mine was a physical assault. For some, it's not that. It's witnessing something, or it's doing something so terrible that other normal events for other people trigger traumatic responses and they shut down, or it flips a switch and they go into abuse mode. Another thing that is PTSD related is hypervigilance, and that is another aspect of this that I struggle with. I have gone through phases of being extremely hypervigilant, For example, when a bunch of bad stuff was happening during Obama's presidency, my oldest daughter and I were in McDonald's, and people were talking at that time about bombings and terror attacks. And so every time we would go into McDonald's, I would sit in the same place. I had a view of both doors. I knew how many people were in the kitchen. I knew how many people were behind the counter. I knew who was in the bathroom. I knew how many people were seated at the table. I was watching people come and go. If anybody would have flinched wrong, I would have had a plan for us to get out of there safely. And the thing is, I have no military experience that has done this to me. It was purely an event that happened to me in my life, and I decided I was not ever going to be in a situation where I felt out of control and unable to handle it. I went to Krav Maga for a while. I have taken various rad self-defense classes. Sadly, due to coronavirus, none of those are offered right now, but those will start back up hopefully in the fall. It's sometimes terrifying to live this life and not know what the next day is going to bring. Hell, even what the next hour is going to bring. I have flipped out over the most insignificant things. When I tell my kids to do something, I expect them to do it, and I mean do it right then. I don't do anything more than raise my voice and get, I don't know that argumentative is the right word, but I get loud. I want to overpower the conversation so I feel like I have control of it. Because if I'm in control, nothing bad can happen to me, or nothing bad can happen to my kids or my family or the people I'm with. I'm a believer in happiness. I'm a believer in knowing that I can control this to some degree. I'm a believer in healing, and I am absolutely a believer in making my life better, safer, and happier for myself, my kids, and my family, and for whatever comes next. I do feel like I messed up my marriage by some of the side effects of PTSD. In retrospect, I do think he and I are better off not together. He's moved on and he's happily remarried. And as I'm reflecting on my past and the things that I've said and done, I can see why things ended the way they did. I've been pretty messed up and I just didn't realize it. I made jokes about it and I kind of blew it off like, haha, yeah, I'm just weird. Yeah, you know me. I'm the weirdo. I'm quirky. I'm odd. And while I am many of those things, those are not the reasons I act the way I do. I now have solid explanations for questions that I've heard from family members along the way. What changed with you? You used to be so easygoing and you used to be such a lovely little girl. Things did change. Big things changed. I'm finding some answers, which is soothing to my soul. I'm hopeful for a brighter future. So I hope you guys hear this, and I hope some of you can relate and maybe, reach out. If you feel like reaching out, please don't hesitate to contact me via the podcast website. www.rebelsageperspectives.com. And I'm happy to get back with you when I get the message. Oh, you can also like Rebel Sage Perspectives on Facebook. Don't do the friend request one. Do the one where you like the page. And message me there. I'm happy to get back to you. Thanks, y'all. Have a great night. Enjoy being you. Peace.